The modern worship of the alpha male is one of the greatest psychological scams of our time. What the internet celebrates as peak masculine confidence is, when you look at the actual behavioral science, frequently a clinical narcissistic disorder wearing a perfectly tailored suit. Here's what most people get wrong. Narcissism doesn't look weak. It doesn't look insecure. It looks dominant. It looks charismatic. It looks exactly like the alpha male we're all supposed to admire. Once you understand the mechanics underneath, you'll see every powerful person differently. We've been systematically conditioned to believe that narcissism means needy, insecure, constantly seeking attention. That's completely backwards. Real narcissism doesn't look fragile. It looks hyper-competent. It looks magnetically charming. It looks aggressively dominant. The truth is this: when you combine a high drive for social status with a complete absence of empathy, you don't get a protective leader. You get a behavioral predator operating at elite level. The psychology that builds the idealized alpha male actually predisposes someone to become a textbook narcissist. They're not opposites. They're almost the same person at the psychological level. Section 1. The shared architecture. Let me show you the 3 core traits they share that make them virtually indistinguishable at first glance. First, low neuroticism. In high-pressure situations, while normal people's nervous systems spike into panic, these individuals stay remarkably calm. Their cortisol stays flat. They don't feel fear the way you do. But here's the dark part. They also don't feel guilt the way you do. To the untrained eye, this looks like unshakable courage. In reality, it's an emotional void. Second, the dominance drive. Both archetypes view human hierarchies not as networks of cooperation, but as pyramids of power. Every social interaction is a chess match with 2 possible outcomes. You're either dominating or you're being dominated. There is no middle ground. Third, the charisma mask. Because they view human interactions mechanically, they've spent years, sometimes decades, studying behavioral patterns. They don't learn social skills to connect with people. They learn them to execute control. They understand human triggers better than you understand yourself. This is why they can fake rapport effortlessly. They can command a room without breaking a sweat. Narcissism exists on a spectrum. Not every confident person is a predator, but the exact traits required to reach alpha status, grandiosity, entitlement, obsession with status, those are the exact fuel blocks that ignite a narcissistic pathology. But here's where it gets tactical. When high stakes are actually on the line, in a boardroom, a negotiation, a social circle, how does this play out in real time? Section 2. The 3-phase breakdown. Let's break down how a narcissistic alpha systematically extracts value and psychological control from high-performing people around them. This isn't theory. This is behavioral architecture that plays out constantly in elite environments. Phase 1. Strategic calibration. They don't enter hostile. They identify the single most competent, most threatening person in the room, the one who could rival them. Then they do something counterintuitive. They shower that person with public praise. They build a false alliance. While appearing to collaborate, they're actually mapping that person's micro insecurities. They're forcing them to lower their psychological guard. This phase works because the target's brain interprets public validation as genuine support. Their threat detection system shuts down. Phase 2. Manufactured dissonance. Once the target is comfortable, the narcissistic alpha shifts everything. They introduce subtle, perfectly calibrated micro-insults disguised as constructive feedback. They do this deliberately in front of peers. They use phrases like, incredible effort on the data, but let's leave the strategy to someone with a broader vision. This triggers immediate cognitive dissonance in the target's brain. They start working twice as hard, not for the project, but to regain the alpha's validation. They're now operating from a place of psychological need, not confidence. Phase 3. Ego harvesting. When the project succeeds, the narcissistic alpha systematically rewrites the narrative. The victory gets credited to their vision, their leadership, their strategy. The target's labor gets minimized to excellent execution of my vision. If the project fails, the architecture is already pre-built to shift 100% of accountability onto the target. The alpha's reputation stays pristine. This isn't leadership. This is psychological engineering designed to extract value while destroying the autonomy of everyone in the room. This strategy is terrifyingly effective in the short term. It's why narcissistic alphas dominate corporate ladders and political systems. But it contains a fatal, systemic defect that ultimately destroys them. Section 3. The narcissistic feedback loop. Psychologists track a phenomenon called the narcissistic feedback loop. In a secure, healthy person, power breeds responsibility. They recognize their dominance affects the ecosystem around them, so they stabilize. They develop what's called secure dominance. They lead without needing constant validation. In a narcissistic alpha, power hits the brain like an unrestricted dopamine surge. Success doesn't satisfy the ego. It validates their grandiosity. So they need more submission, more praise, more control to maintain their internal equilibrium. This is where the ego blind spot kicks in, because they genuinely believe they're intellectually and socially superior to everyone around them. They become neurologically incapable of processing objective risk or criticism. They assume their targets are too intimidated to notice the manipulation. They stop calculating. They start overplaying their hand. This is why high dominance narcissists climb with terrifying speed, only to engineer their own spectacular public downfalls. They burn through alliances. They alienate their most valuable people. Eventually, they isolate themselves at the top of a collapsing structure. The system that made them powerful becomes the system that destroys them, and this is why understanding this psychology matters. Section 4. The strategic takeaway. Deconstructing narcissism isn't about fixing these people. Apex predators don't get rehabilitated. You map their patterns so you never become their prey. True, unshakable influence belongs to people operating with secure dominance. They command a room without demanding submission. They're strategically aware, emotionally bulletproof, and possess the ultimate competitive advantage. An ego that doesn't require external validation to exist. When you stop falling for the illusion of the loud, aggressive alpha, you strip them of their power. You see them for what they are. Not leaders, but fragile systems running a highly predictable script. To master the invisible forces that govern human hierarchies, you have to train your mind to see the frameworks the untrained eye completely misses. Next, June 5th, we're dropping something equally critical. Why mediocre people get promoted over you, the power hierarchy. We're breaking down the hidden structural systems that reward compliance over competence and exactly how to recognize and exploit them. Hit subscribe so you don't miss that one. The algorithm actively suppresses deep behavioral psychology unless you're locked into the channel. Leave a comment below. Tell me the exact moment you realized a dominant person in your life wasn't a leader. They were running a script. See you on Friday.